Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we are from Group 8. We'll present on this special topic on e-commerce. So before we start our presentation, let me introduce my group member. So me, Marziana, and we have Nur Ifa Haida, and we have Nur Zahia Atira, and lastly we have Nur Haliza. So let's take a look on the outline for this presentation. We will start with research objective, and then we have company background, and we have research methodology, and then we have the e-commerce industry overview and the tax treatment, and we gonna look into the e-commerce industry during COVID-19, and we will end with conclusion. Okay, let's start with research objective. So we seek for three objectives for this research. First one, we would like to understand in depth the business model of e-commerce, and then we also want to understand the tax treatment under e-commerce, and lastly we would like to examine the impact of COVID-19 outbreak on e-commerce and the challenges faces. So next we move on to the company background that we choose in this research. So we are choosing Lazada for this research. So Lazada Group was found in 2012 by Maximilian Birner. So currently they are operating in 6 regional markets in Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. So during 2016 to 2017, Alibaba Group has made a total of $2 billion investment into Lazada, which make them have 81% control on their share. So currently, Lazada being led by Lucy Peng as the executive chairwoman and Piri Poinin as the CEO. So Lazada comprise of two major business lines, which are Lazada Platform and Lazada E-Logistic. So under Lazada Platform, there are Lazada Marketplace, Lazada Mall, and cross-border. So Lazada Marketplace was introduced on Lazada Platform in 2013, whereby it gives the retailer instant access to million new customers. And Laz Mall, which introduced in 2018, is a virtual mall whereby it connects the shoppers with international and local brand. And then we have also Cross Border, which is a platform for the Southeast Asian brand to reach the international consumer. And then the second line business is Lazada E-Logistic, which is related to the supply and chain logistics services. So next we move on to the research methodology. So we are using two methods in this research. So first we have conduct interview to get an insight from the expert on taxation of e-commerce. So we have conducted interview with Puan Laila, who is the Vice President of Regional Tax at Lazada Group, and the interview was conducted through email. And then we also reviewing some reading materials which related to e-commerce taxation and e-commerce industry during COVID-19. So we have reviewed some article, news, and taxation guideline on e-commerce. So that's all from me. I will pass to my friend to continue the presentation.
Next, we move on to the industry overview and tax treatment for e-commerce. I am Nur Ifa Haida. I will present on the e-commerce. So, what is e-commerce? E-commerce transaction means any sale or purchase of goods or services conducted over any networks by methods specifically designed for the purpose of receiving or placing of orders. But the payment and ultimate delivery of the goods or services do not have to be conducted online. The e-commerce transaction can be between enterprises, households, individuals, governments, and other public or private organizations. The e-commerce has given rise to a number of new business models such as, first, online trading or service providers. It refers to sale or purchase of goods or services conducted over computer networks. For example, online retailers, online educational services, and online consultation services. Second, App stores is a type of digital distribution platform for software that is accessible through consumers' browsers such as Spotify, Trivago, and YouTube. Third, online advertising uses the internet as a medium to target and deliver marketing messages to consumers in a form of display ads and search engine ads. The advertising activities can be in form of advertising space and product reviews. The cloud computing is an online services where users can access the service using various types of device provided that they have internet connection. For example, peer-to-peer based activity of acquiring, providing, or sharing access to goods and services by online platform, and practice of funding a venture by raising money from a large number of people using online platform. Next, the payment services are payment via online transaction between online purchasers and sellers through credit cards and e-wallets. The example of payment gateways available in Malaysia is Boost. Lastly, the digital currency or token refers to buying and selling the digital currency or digital token, for example, Bitcoin. The allowable business expenses for e-commerce are the expenses incurred in the production of business income, such as web maintenance fees, web consultants fees, and others, whilst the non-allowable expenses, such as for domestic and personal expenses, and also purchase of assets for personal use. For the scope of charge, generally, income tax is imposed on the income of any person accruing in or derived from leisure. Any income in relation to e-commerce transaction is deemed to be derived from leisure if it is associated to any activities in Malaysia, regardless of whether that income is received in Malaysia or otherwise. For a non-resident person, the derivation from e-commerce transaction may also be deemed to derive that income from leisure in relation to special classes of income and royalty that will be explained later. For business income, where the business operations are carried on in Malaysia, the income of the person attributable to those business operations deemed to be derived from leisure. This include carrying a business via company or an individual performing or rendering services. For example of e-commerce transaction, a fashion blogger received income from advertising space and product reviews. The income is taxable under Section 4A due to carrying on the activity as a profession.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Nur Zahia Atirah. Now we move on to the next scope of tax liability, which is special classes of income. So the special classes of income is any amount paid in consideration of any advice given, assistance or services rendered that are related to management or administration of any specific industrial, commercial, venture, project or scheme related to e-commerce. Under Section 4A of ITA 1967, special classes of income received by non-resident person is subject to tax in Malaysia through withholding tax under Section 109B ITA 1967. And the last one is the scope of tax liability for royalty. Effective from the year of assessment 2017, the definition of royalty has been amended, where the word software has been added to the definition of royalty. The word software indicates the use or the right to use of software, any transmission through satellite, forbearance payment, the use or the right to use information related to knowledge, experience and skill, as well as the use or the right to use licenses for radio frequency spectrum. So, for e-commerce, the royalty could be in terms of the monthly subscription fee for online selling platform and the transaction fee for online payment service platform. Therefore, any royalty paid to a non-resident in relation to e-commerce transaction will be subjected to withholding tax under Section 109 ITA 1967. Next is the examination for business model. So this table shows the summary of several business models and whether or not their income from e-commerce is derived from Malaysia and would be subject to Malaysian tax. First, let us take a look at the resident row. So for resident, the e-commerce income is deemed derived from Malaysia if the business operation is in Malaysia. Doesn't matter if the website is set up in Malaysia or overseas. However, if the business operation is in Malaysia, but the branch and website are set up in overseas, then only income of the company from operations in Malaysia will be taxable in Malaysia. The income from sales through website that are attributable to the overseas branch is not deemed to be derived in Malaysia. Then, if the business operation of the resident is in overseas, doesn't matter if the website is set up in Malaysia or overseas, the income is not deemed to be derived in Malaysia. Next, let's look at the non-resident row. So, similar to resident, if the business operation of the non-resident is in Malaysia, the e-commerce income is deemed to be derived from Malaysia. Doesn't matter if the website is set up in Malaysia or overseas. However, if the business operation of the non-resident is in overseas, the income is not derived from Malaysia even if the website is set up in Malaysia. In case where the non-resident business operation and its website is set up in overseas, but it has branch in Malaysia, then only e-commerce income attributable to the business operation of Malaysia branch is deemed to be derived in Malaysia. However, if the website is set up in Malaysia, the e-commerce income is not deemed to be derived in Malaysia, but the income from Malaysia branch is liable to tax in Malaysia. Next is tax relief. So, when resident person having business operations in Malaysia but set up website on a server outside Malaysia, there could be an issue of double taxation. So, in ITA 1967 and the relevant DTA, there is provision for tax relief. In non-DTA context, a unilateral tax credit may be allowed, while in DTA context, a bilateral tax credit may be allowed, and the elimination of double taxation is subject to the terms and provisions as stipulated in DTA. Then the last one is permanent establishment or PE. So the issue that arises here is whether the server is considered as PE or not. So, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development (OECD) commentary, a server can only constitute a PE if the activities conducted through the server are not regarded as preparatory or auxiliary, which include providing communication link between suppliers and customers, advertising of goods and services, gathering market data, and supply information. It also added that PE may be constituted even if no personnel of the business are required at the server's location for the operation of the server. Next, in general view, computer equipment such as the server could constitute a PE if the functions performed at the server represent a significant and essential part of the enterprise business activities.
With the latest current issues now, the pandemic outbreaks, or known as the COVID-19, has affected many industries. This part attempts to give an overview on the impact of the pandemic situation on Lazada and its challenges. Before we go through the impacts and its challenges, let's take a look at the factors that driving e-commerce growth in the wake of COVID-19. Social distancing and avoiding crowded places became part of the new norm during COVID-19 pandemic. According to World Trade Organization, there are huge increases in business-to-consumer sales as people turn to online platforms to get their household essentials, medical supplies, and food products. First, growth in e-commerce sales during COVID-19 can be linked with the increase of better to internet access and rising affluence. The better the internet access, the easier for shoppers to purchase. Everything information just at their fingertips. Changes in shopping behavior of the consumer during MCO also contribute to the growth in e-commerce sales. In the response upon hearing the close of industry during MCO, panic buying could be observed among the consumer whereby they started to stock up the household essentials and medical supplies. Apart from the consumers, sellers also choose the e-commerce platform to sell their product as they are not permitted to open the store. In order to sustain the operation, most of the businesses are taking the opportunity by using the online platform to promote and sell their products such as on Lazada, Shopee, Zalora, and Webshop. Based on the interview, the data revealed that the new norm of online shopping by the public has greatly impacted the traffic ranking of Lazada, as nearly 1/4 of shoppers are looking for contactless payments or delivery options, and Lazada has seen a surge in data traffic consumers, where most users visit its platforms and purchase its product more frequently. Lazada Malaysia reports that there is an increase in their orders right before and throughout the duration of MCO, which give more visitors, active users, and new sellers in its platform during MCO. The total gross merchandise value, or GMV, of Lazada has increased by 45% in April. GMV is the total value of products that sold over a stipulated time through a customer-to-customer exchange site. It is a mechanism used to measure the growth and health of an e-commerce site's business. Lazada market share has also increased as more investors are willing to invest on its business. Since online sales have increased from the year-ago period and the number of online shoppers have kept rising since the outbreak began, the investors have become more interested and found that e-commerce is such a golden opportunity to invest. We can see here both graphs illustrate the increased trends for e-commerce industry. Therefore, with all of these impacts, how can it relate with tax? In terms of tax implications, the data reveals that the corporate tax from the revenue collection of Lazada is expected to increase during the MCO and CMCO due to increasing numbers of business want to join Lazada. For the cross-border sellers, they are obliged to pay import duty to Malaysian government. Therefore, by attracting more foreign sellers, Lazada can also help the government to increase tax collection. Ahead of the interview with Puan Laila, Lazada has said that among the challenges to conduct its business during pandemic are Lazada has faced disruptions in logistics and delivery services, online B2B wholesalers and supply chains. This is because the suspension of manufacturing activity mainly in China, decreased production and labour shortage. The postponement and cancellation of flights, which were typically used to transport postal shipments and other small consignments, have reduced its transport capacity. Their customers have therefore been faced with the delays or cancellation of their orders. Another challenges will be compliance with health and safety regulations as well as with regards to adhering the standards operating procedures or SOPs. Some Lazada SOPs include the warehouse and hubs in Malaysia are disinfected daily before start their shift. All warehouse staff and riders' temperatures are checked before they can enter the warehouse and before they start their delivery rounds. They are required to wear masks at all times and to sanitize their hands before handling any parcel. For the conclusions, throughout the research, it is found that despite the situation where most of the economic sectors are facing downturn during the pandemic situations, e-commerce industries are able to stay competitive in the market. This could be seen when there is an increment in the number of retailers joining the platforms, the revenue and the total product sold, as well as their market shares. Thus, the competitiveness of the e-commerce industry will encourage the tax collection from the corporate tax revenue and also the import duty from the cross-border seller.